Do you have Estonia e-residency and want to open an Estonia bank account? Well, welcome to the club. If you're one of the 66,000 Estonia e-residents or you desperately need to open a bank account for your Estonian company, then be sure to stick around because this is the video for you. In fact, if you're like most people with Estonia e-residency today, you probably have an Estonian company that you can't open a bank account for. And you might be wondering why you obtained e-residency in the first place. By now, most people have duct taped together a few banking alternatives like EMIs and payment services. But with all the scandals in the fintech space, like Wirecard losing $1.3 billion, more and more people want to open a real bank account. Well, fortunately, there's hope. In this video, we explain how the Estonia bank account game has changed and what you can do about it, and how e-residents can actually open a bank account. But before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you get alerted every time we post new non-resident banking opportunities. Now, to help you get started with banking in Estonia, we have a free non-resident banking starter guide. It's designed to help non-resident and foreigners open bank accounts, so don't forget to download your copy using the link in the description below. Estonia e-residents and Estonian companies were all the rage for freelancers and digital nomads over the past few years. I mean, what wasn't there to love? Estonian companies were affordable. If you had Estonia e-residency, you could quickly register, maintain, and start your Estonian company remotely. And Estonia only taxes distributed profits, which means that those with the right setup could operate tax-free, something that is hard to do in almost any other European country. So, digital nomads everywhere rushed to apply for their Estonia e-residency, creating Estonian companies and opening Estonian bank accounts. And things worked really well for a while. But then e-residents started having trouble opening Estonia bank accounts, and banks started getting tough on non-resident Estonian companies. It's like banks knew that non-resident accounts were about to become a major problem for them. And then, that's when something horrible happened. In 2017, Estonian banks got caught red-handed in the largest money laundering scandal in European history. The gist? Danske Bank, the largest bank in Denmark, had a little branch in Estonia. And that little Estonian branch that could let 228 billion, yes billion, in suspicious transactions flow through its stores for 8 years, from 2007 to 2015. Now, to make matters worse, it turned out that most of that 228 billion was sent and received by non-residents. Naturally, this set off a chain of events. Suddenly, Estonian banks got tough on compliance, tightened their rules, and started terminating non-resident accounts. If you or your company didn't have real economic ties to Estonia, you were a pariah and locked out of the Estonian banking system. Estonia e-residents, Estonian companies, and non-residents who applied for an Estonia bank account were either rejected or told politely to not even bother applying. And just like that, the Estonia bank account opening party was over. Estonia e-residents with freshly minted Estonia companies were faced with a harsh new reality. Either deal with subpar banking alternatives, pay more money to create a new company elsewhere, or get creative and find an alternative bank account elsewhere. Now, let's break down the challenges of opening an Estonia bank account. To tackle the challenges of opening an Estonia bank account, we need to tackle two major misconceptions about Estonia e-residency. The connection it creates between the e-resident and Estonia banking. Number one, Estonia e-residency does not give you residency or legitimate tie to Estonia. It's just an ID card that lets you use government portals, sign documents, and submit forms to Estonian authorities and service providers. Number two, basically 99.9% of non-residents are toxic to Estonian banks, can't open bank accounts, and have been shut out of the Estonian banking system. For this reason, it might be time to start looking elsewhere if you're an e-resident in need of a bank account. On the other hand, if you're still hell-bent on opening an Estonian bank account, you need to remember what you're up against. Remember, the sting from the recent banking scandals is still fresh in Estonia, and many Estonian banks are still shell-shocked and recovering. Estonian banks were at the heart of the largest and most embarrassing money laundering scandal in Europe. It wasn't just a minor compliance hiccup. It's also important to realize that Estonian compliance departments are under immense pressure to perform and keep non-residents out. Bank executives don't want any more PR disasters, corporate embarrassment, or tumbling stock prices. So they're keen to de-risk their operations and keep regulators happy. And on top of all that, Estonian banks know they're being watched closely. Regulators and authorities in Estonia, Europe, and the US all have eyes on this tiny Baltic outlet. The entire country is effectively on timeout, and for the foreseeable future, they're in good behavior mode. So it's important for non-residents and entrepreneurs to realize that Estonian banks have zero interest in taking on risky, non-resident individuals and companies right now. So right about now, you're probably thinking, well, where should I bank instead? And that's a good question, since despite the fact that Estonian banks hate non-residents, it's still 100% possible for Estonian companies and non-residents to open bank accounts elsewhere. You just have to think outside the box. In some cases, this means thinking beyond Estonia bank accounts, knowing where to look, and having the right information. For starters, you're going to want to consider the non-resident banking options outside of Estonia. And since you were considering Estonia in the first place, you might want to start by considering non-resident banking in other European countries. Your options, as always, will depend on your client profile, the amount you plan to deposit, and a wide range of other considerations. But you'll have a much easier time opening non-resident accounts in countries like Andorra, Bulgaria, Georgia, the Isle of Man, Malta, and many more. In fact, depending on where you open, you'll even be able to open accounts remotely. Of course, there are many other non-resident banking options available to you in countries outside of Europe. Depending on your needs, your interests, and your profile, any one of them might be a good fit for you. Now, some of you might be saying to yourself that it might be worth a shot to try and open a bank account in Estonia anyway. And we don't blame you, as there are a number of reasons why people keep trying to open Estonia bank accounts despite the continued struggles. For example, people live, work, or reside there, or some regularly visit Estonia and spend some time there. Some want access to the euro and low-cost SEPA transfers, or they want to diversify their financial assets in a different country, region, or currency. And others want to have a bank account in an economically and politically stable country. As we shared earlier on in this video, pre-2015, many people wanted to open an Estonia bank account because banking in Estonia was really easy. The Estonian banks accepted anyone, BVI companies, UK companies, it didn't matter. In fact, at Danske Bank's Estonian branch, 44% of total deposits were from non-residents. So they were used to dealing with non-resident accounts. Now, as we all know, banking in Estonia started to change dramatically around 2017. Banking rules got stricter and a new type of non-resident client emerged: foreign non-residents with Estonian companies. Estonia's e-residency program launched in 2014. In a nutshell, it issued digital ID cards which let foreigners digitally sign and submit documents and log into government portals. By 2019, Estonia's e-residency program had over 66,000 e-residents and over 10,000 Estonian companies. And a lot of them want to open Estonia bank accounts, but they can't. But e-residents aren't the only one looking to open Estonia bank accounts. In fact, there are 6 different groups that want and should open accounts in Estonia if they can do it. Groups that can benefit the most from Estonia bank accounts: e-residents who want to open business bank accounts for Estonian companies, foreign non-residents living in Estonia or surrounding countries, foreigners and expats who live, work, reside in Estonia, foreign non-residents who want a bank account in a stable European country, people with ties to Estonia, and businesses within the region that have ties to Estonia. While these groups tend to be the most interested in Estonia banking, not all of them are eligible, and those without ties to Estonia are frequently rejected by Estonian banks. As a result, they're either forced to acquire ties, consider alternative banking solutions, or open accounts with banks outside of Estonia. So, if you fit into any of the categories I've just mentioned, then having an Estonia bank account will make your life a lot easier. But in addition to the convenience, it can also save you a lot of money. So, what if you can't open an Estonia bank account? If you've been rejected by Estonian banks in the past, it's time to start considering alternatives. This might include alternative banking solutions, EMIs, fintech, etc., or opening a bank account outside of Estonia. If you currently have a bank account in Estonia and you're worried that your account might get shut down, consider lining up backup bank accounts before it's too late. This way, you'll have a backup account ready to go if your bank does suddenly terminate your account, like they've done to so many other non-residents. And if your Estonia company is 100% reliant on fintech solutions and you're worried about sudden account freezes or the recent negative trends we're seeing in the sector, you should consider something more sustainable. On the other hand, entrepreneurs with fast-growing businesses or who deal with high volumes may find they've outgrown their fintech or EMI solutions and they need a traditional bank account. Whatever the reason, getting prepared before your accounts are negatively impacted just makes good sense. Are you ready to open an Estonia bank account? To start opening accounts today, you can obviously use the information that I've shared in this video, or you can access one of our account opening services and start taking action today. Each of our premium services are designed to help non-resident individuals, foreigners, and their businesses open international bank accounts. Whether you need personal, private, business, offshore, or even US banking, we have an account opening solution that will work for you. You can get started with GlobalBanks IQ, our international banking intelligence service. It gives you step-by-step instructions and all the tools you need to find and open accounts with top banks around the world. Plus, you'll unlock our international intelligence reports, account opening strategies, international bank database, and much more. We also have a dedicated US account opening service called GlobalBanks USA, which is 100% focused on helping non-residents, foreigners, and even foreign and offshore companies open bank accounts in the US. It involves direct one-on-one support from our team of experts and includes access to our US banking intelligence reports, US account opening strategies, and US bank database. And, of course, there's our flagship service, GlobalBanks Insider. With GlobalBanks Insider, you get access to everything we offer, including all of the benefits in GlobalBanks IQ and GlobalBanks USA, plus our entire library of premium reports, the entire GlobalBanks database, and dedicated one-on-one support from our team of international banking experts to helping you find and open the accounts you need. So, no matter where you're looking to bank in the world, you're only a few clicks away from finding and opening international accounts. To get started, just click the link in the description below to learn more about the available options. And before signing off, don't forget to hit subscribe so you get alerted every time we share new banking opportunities. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.